Welcome to E39 Source. This is Ryan Schultz with the 2000 M5 production, February of 2000 that would be. And today we're finally doing the navigation upgrade. I've been talking about this in this car for a long time. As you can see, we're still running the 4x3 display in there right now, since that's what was included prior to September of 2000 production, and the MK2 computer, which this is actually the Mark IV in here right now. Mark II has already been removed, but I will be detailing the entire process, how to remove that. If you're upgrading from a Mark I to anything, there's an adapter you need to do. If you're going from the Mark II to III, you've actually got to remove the GPS antenna, which the Mark I and II have obviously the computer. Then it goes through what could be considered a translator. It's called the tremble. It's actually mounted on the back of the amp, which is back here. This is your 6-disc CD changer. This is for my headlight or my tail light, so ballast for the 01 plus tail lights in this vehicle. But that's the amp back there. We're going to have to take all this out to remove the tremble. But if you're going from a Mark III to a Mark IV, that's actually the easiest way. You just remove this, take your Mark III out, plug in the purple and blue wires, and it's that easy in the antenna. But right now we're going to have to skip the tremble unit that this car has, since the Mark III and Mark IV have that already built into the computer. So we'll just be taking the antenna. Instead of going through the tremble, it'll just plug right back into this unit. So that's going to be the first thing we're going to do. First, unlock your car both ways, all 4 doors unlocked, open your trunk, and wait until your existing navigation display, which we can't see from there, has turned itself off. Sometimes when you unlock the car, it'll just be a black display. We need to wait maybe a minute, 30 seconds until it goes off. Looks like mine is already off. And I am going to go ahead and disconnect the battery for this. If you're in an M5, you probably already know the battery is back here in the trunk under all of this carpet. We'll just disconnect the negative terminal. Regular 5 series, it's behind this door. Just pull your negative terminal off. In the case of the M5, it was just a 10mm socket. Negative terminal is off, and we're ready to remove the outgoing navigation computer. In this case, I'm just going to be taking mine out so I can wire it correctly and bypassing the tremble and plugging the antenna directly in. Some people will tell you that you need a special tool for this. This is not the case. We don't even need to make one out of a coat hanger to go in these 4 holes. If you come over here and you feel there's 2 on the left and 2 on the right, there's just tabs that need to be depressed, and then it will slide out. I'm going to need 2 hands to do it since there's 2 on each side. Press all those tabs in and pull the computer straight out, minding that there are still 3 things connected in the back. If you have a Mark III or IV, if you have the 1 or 2, then there's just the 2 wires. You'll soon find the computer like this. The antenna wire that we're going to be utilizing is over here. Then this is just data and power. My clips are missing in action, but there's little black tabs on here you pull up and it pulls them out. I'm just going to pull mine straight out and set the computer aside. If you're looking for part numbers for a Mark IV computer, this would be it. They're easily found on eBay. Unfortunately, they are between $500 and $700 in most cases, at least in this point in time. And this is actually the best computer available for this car. The E39 shipped with the Mark I until like 97 or 8, and then they went to the 2 until 9 of 2000 for the 2001 model year. Then they shipped the 3 for a while. And I don't actually believe the Mark IV navigation computer was included OEM with any E39. But since it's all the same standardized system, you could put anything that they included with this type of wiring. So we're upgrading this car to what was used in the E53 X5, the E46 M3, or 3 series in general, which is the Mark IV. That's going to be your fastest computer. It's DVD based. As you can see there, it uses CDs and or DVDs to read software and the navigation maps. So that's going to give us a really nice fast user interface with split screen, bird's eye view, all of that stuff, perspective view on a 16:9 navigation screen, or your 4x3. This is also backwards compatible to the old 4x3 system. Now probably the hardest part is going to be getting to that tremble unit. If you're going from the Mark III to the Mark IV, you can totally skip this. You're lucky, you're going to save some time. If you're going from a 1 to a 3, 1 to a 4, 2 to a 3, or 2 to a 4, you're going to have to get that. And as I said a few minutes ago, it's located on the back of that amp, which means everything in front of it is going to have to be removed. Starting with the 6-disc CD changer, if you've got that. I'm going to take a look at this for a few minutes, figure out what we need to do, and then I'll tell you how to take it out. Well, what do you know? The Germans made that fairly simple. The 6-disc CD changer is held in by this bracket right here. There's actually 2 Phillips screws over here, which you only need to loosen. No need to take them out. They're right here. It's a pretty big Phillips bit, as maybe the camera can tell. But once you unscrew those a little bit, you lift the whole thing up from the bottom. Then since you can't get a screwdriver over here on the left side, they just put these plastic things in, which I guess do screw in as well. But if you just lift it up, then it'll come straight out. You can kind of see how the bracket is notched and how that works. I had to pull up a little bit harder on the left side, but if you get a good hand under it and pull it up, minding that the wires are still connected, this particular one has two, which look like they don't need to be connected. I'm just going to lift the whole thing out of the way and put it over there, which gives us better access to what we need. Next step appears to be removing the bracket housing for the actual navigation computer, which looks to me like it's going to be a bolt right here. That looks like it could be about 8 millimeters. I'm looking around on the bottom, could be one there on the amp. Couple different parts, 8 to 10 millimeter bolts. I'll let you know how many there are when I take it out. Very straightforward. That one over here coming off this nut was just an 8 millimeter. I ended up using what looks to be a 3-inch extension with an 8 millimeter socket. It's a little hard to get to, but if you get back there and get your hands in there, it's not a problem to get out. And then the other one holding it in was right here, and I believe that was also an 8 millimeter bolt. Looks like mine maybe was supposed to have another one back here. It'd be the same thing as that. No big deal, take that out. Alright, I've unplugged 2 wires on the amp. This one being the huge old style connector. You pretty much just slide this piece of plastic all the way back, and as you do that it gives way. And then the other one here has that black plastic tab on it, just like we had on the back of the nav computer. So now the fun part, I've got to figure out how to get this entire assembly out, and we'll go from there. Right, I also removed this thing. I don't even know what it is. There's just 2 bolts, same style as the CD changer. You loosen them, slide it towards you, and it gives way. I have not figured out how to unplug it yet. I'm going to try to do it without unplugging it. It's just loose enough right now so I can get out of the way if we need to. We're in about 20 minutes. It's not too bad. Just pretty much any bolt you see that is attached to the amp needs to be disconnected or taken out. There's one down here. There's another one back up there. You got to push some of these wires aside with a 3-inch extension. I also removed this little thing here. It's really self-explanatory. You'll see exactly what you need to do when you get back here. It's not difficult at all. It's just a little harder for those of us with big hands. But once we get this out, this is the back of the amp. This is the unit right here. This is the tremble unit. And looks like we have our antenna, which is this really thin looking wire that either pushes in or screws in. Looks like it screws in here to the back of the tremble. So I'll figure out how to get that out. This is going to be the power, which is that same kind of connector. We push in on the top, rotate that tab back, and it comes out like that. That's the power to the tremble. That'll probably just live in here now. Tremble looks like it's held on with 2 10 millimeter plastic bolts. We'll get that off, take the antenna out, and then put this part back together. Sorry for the very shaky camera work here. It's a bit cool out here, but that's the tremble. Came off with those 2 bolts, and the GPS wire that we're looking for right there just pulled out. Doesn't screw, just grab it by the end. I wouldn't want to pull it by the wire shielding. Pull that out. Now we get to put all this back together. Same process as taking it apart, of course, just backwards. Make sure that you do keep your screws organized. I had 3 of these plastic bolts, 2 of which held the tremble to the back of the amp, and then I had all of these 8 millimeter steel bolts were what held the amp to the frame of the car. I actually relocated that GPS wire antenna that we're going to want up here. I put it through this little thing so I don't lose it and bury it back there and have to take it out again. But I am going to start that process of putting the amp back in. Looks like it's going to be the same 2, 3, 4 screws, making sure that we do reconnect all of the wire. That's the tremble wire that's going to stay, but yeah, do it right. Making sure that you're reconnecting everything that got disconnected on the way out. That includes, at least on this car, 3 individual connectors on the amp, a couple bolts there. I reinstalled whatever this little thing is on the side, put those 2 bolts back in, and then there's this piece over here on the right, which is now installed, and I think we're ready to put the CD changer back in, which is our last step here. I did actually disconnect the CD changer from the amp. That just pulls off similarly to how the GPS antenna came off the tremble. So I'll just line that back up there on the amp and give it a push from the top. If I can see what I'm doing. Yep, I'll have to get that with 2 hands. Okay, the CD changer has been reinstalled, which means we are now ready to put in that bracket for the navigation system, which, as it came out, just 1 bolt there, and then mine probably was supposed to have 2, but whatever you have, get that back installed. Navigation computer bracket is reinstalled, and I already took the care to run the wires through blue, purple, and the GPS antenna. Now it's just a matter of finding the computer, putting the purple in the purple, the blue in the blue, and then the little navigation antenna goes over there where it's not focusing. Maybe I'll use my nose for that. And that little green dot. It takes about 25 minutes, but once you've got everything done, buttoned up, connected, you can push that back in, close the door, and we're done with the MK4 upgrade. I had myself a break for dinner to warm up and to straighten out my back. Anyways, back in the car, I connected the battery again. Went inside just to make sure the amp and stuff was working, and it wasn't. So I came out, reseated the connections with the battery disconnected. That didn't do anything. I plugged in the battery, reseated the connections, and it was this big one here that had to be put in when the battery was connected. And as soon as I slid this thing over to reconnect it, it started working again. So it appears that that is a little fidgety, but be careful. This is definitely the longest and hardest part of this job, is getting the actual MK4 wired up, Mark IV wired up with the GPS antenna, so that will work. But now we go to the fun part that makes the difference, and that would be the navigation display, which is over here out of the light. I'm going to have to be careful moving wires around here. We're going to get in the car and update this from the little 4:3 ratio display to this 16:9, which are around the same price as the Mark IV on eBay. At least that's where I was looking for these for a while. This one happened to come with the navigation frame. I think I'm going to take that off for installation. Apologize again for the lighting. It has the frame bezel around the display. I'm going to pull that off, and then we'll tell you how to get that one out. Well, we can already see the Mark IV navigation software here running on the 4:3 display. It looks like I am running the latest version, which I believe is version 32. However, I am going to have another video coming on how to update the software. I found a bit of software online that has like the M splash screen and a couple other niceties, so I'm going to update that later. But it does work. Everything functions just like it would before, except it's really fast, and the navigation interface just looks one hell of a lot newer. And the computer that I got actually came with discs from 2009, so that's good. Anyways, replacing the display does not require the battery to be disconnected. However, it isn't a bad idea, and I do recommend that you do that. I'm not following my own recommendations. However, of course, before I pull this display out, since it's powered, I am going to put the key in position 0 and turn off the lights. They're just on right now for video purposes. But first things first, we need to remove some trim from the inside of the car. 2 pieces to be precise. This one over here under the airbag for the passenger side, and this one here, the M5 has the tire pressure monitoring system. I don't know if the other ones do. If you don't, it's just a little bit easier. You don't have to be careful with the wires. If you do, well, then be careful with the wires. Removing it doesn't really need any other tools other than these 5 digits. So we'll come over here, like with this side. I'm actually missing a clip. It's in the mail right now. I ordered some new ones. But if you start here and then work your way over, don't grab the end and pull the whole thing out. Then there's just 4 clips along this whole thing, which is hard to do from the driver's seat. 1 more on the side, and there is that piece of trim. I got a couple fingerprints on it, but now that's out of the way. Same process with this little piece over here. That piece is now removed. You can see the wire hanging there where the tire pressure system went in. I just disconnected that so I can put it aside easier. And now we're left with the display around the trim around the display. I should mention, if you have the wood trim, I'm pretty sure it's the exact same thing. There's just clips in all these places. The wood trim or this Titan line trim around the 4:3 display is held on by 2 Phillips screws on each side, and we're never going to see it on camera. But there's one over here, and there's one in the same place on the other side. Remove those, and I'll tell you what to do from there. It's a little tricky. BMW. By the way, I did remove the steering wheel in its furthest down position so I could reach over here and better pry that piece of trim out. With those 2 small screws out of the way, you're going to want to take a small screwdriver, and on each side, I'll try to do this side as the lighting is probably better. Do you see, let's focus on that real quick. Right here, I'm looking through the camera, so this is hard to see. You can fit your screwdriver in this little thing. If you pry it up, you'll feel that that's bending my screwdriver, and it's also spring-loaded. What you want to do is pry both sides up, and then this trim will pull away from the monitor. And that definitely, maybe it can be done with one hand. If you notice, that's coming away from the display. So now we'll come on this side. Obviously don't pull out too far, you'll pinch it in there. Come over here, do the same thing, stick your screwdriver in there, pry it up, and pull off the trim from the front of the old display. With the trim off, you will see this. It is now held in with 4 screws. I think they are just straight Phillips screws. If you get down here like that, you can just see the one there on the left side. I've noticed that if you're using a really thick screwdriver, you can't clear the plastic of the display to get in there, so I'm going to use this one here, which isn't magnetized, so be careful that you don't lose these 4 screws. One's located here, one a few inches to the left, and then one in each top corner. Key now out of the ignition, 4 screws removed. We should just be able to take a steady hand, lift this unit towards you up a little bit, and then it's going to come straight out. It's kind of heavy, revealing what holds it in terms of wiring. There's just 2 connectors, a white one and a blue one. Same deal as the ones in the back on the Mark X computer. You move those tabs, pull those wires out, and it should be, from here, the reverse install process of the 16x9 unit. I know somebody else will be curious what's in here. We'll take a little look. There's a lot of wires, there's a lot of sensors. There's the Bowden cable that Colt was dealing with to take these out of his 540. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff back in here. However, it's fairly easy to get to this point. If you were to need to service any of these components, if you go back and push, that's how they come out. They're just held in with clips. Same deal with the sport button, DSC, and power seat controls down there. So now might be a good time to pop those out real quick and clean in there if you so wish. Just kind of dropped it in there to make sure that it works, and indeed it does. So of course it's just the same setup as before, plugging the white wire into where the white wire would go and the blue one into where the blue one would go. Dropping it back in here, then we're going to have the same 4 screws. Actually, I'm looking down there. Yeah, it looks like it is the same 4 screws in the same locations, and then we should just be able to snap all the trim back on, and we're done. 10 minutes later, this is what we're left with. This is definitely the easiest part of the job. It's just a few screws, a few clips. Line those clips back up where they go, give them a couple swift kicks, and they go in. And it looks like this. We'll do a quick little look at here with the software. If you go over to settings and then just hit OK, it'll tell you it's running software 4. That means it's a Mark IV computer. And then 1/00 would be a revision number. And I believe this is 32, but as I said, we're going to have a video upgrading the software. But everything seems to work. We'll hit the eject button, and it does do that and give me access to a tape deck, since these were used 10 years ago, so that's cool. And that would be how to do the navigation upgrade in a Mark II equipped E39 5 Series, E38 7 Series, or essentially any BMW navigation system. This is all very, very, very similar electronics. Of course, the new models using different systems with in-dash loading, map discs and whatnot, but it definitely looks a lot nicer, gives me better functionality. I mean, this is really fast. If we go over to GPS, then back to menu, onboard navigation, or onboard computer, DSP, the Mark II computer was just really, really, really slow with all of this. And now this is nice and quick, and I like that. I by no means call myself an expert with this technology, but if you have any questions, please, please, please send me a comment, YouTube, personal message, however that goes. Find me on Twitter, twitter.com/JamesRSchultz, and I'll do whatever I can to help you out. But yeah, this is definitely a worthwhile upgrade. It is not inexpensive by any means, but it certainly looks nicer, gives us functionality, and adds value to these cars. Coming with a Mark IV and a 16:9 display gives this vehicle the facelifted look, and now that aspect as well. Again, thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys in a future video. Bye-bye.